and winning with money.
And today's episode of our podcast is centered around emergency funds. And just in case you're wondering, what is emergency funds? I like to call it Vex money. You know, sometimes you might need to sort yourself for unplanned incidents. Something has happened that you're not prepared for. Emergency funds are the savings you set aside for the things that happened that you are not prepared for. The example I love, why I call it Vex money, is say, for example, you have gone out on a date with someone. And then at the date, even though you guys had agreed that he was going to pay and everything was fine before you started eating, somewhere in the middle of the food, a disagreement occurs. He gets angry, slams his napkin on the table, and walks out of that restaurant. What is going to happen to you when you did not prepare to pay? Naturally, having emergency funds is what makes you able to cope with that situation by bringing out your emergency fund, paying for your meal, and getting yourself a cab home, even though it was a guy that brought you to the restaurant. There are many other situations that can call for emergency funds. Health issues, for example, somebody, could be you, could be a member of the family, takes ill, and then you need to run tests and pay bills that you were not prepared for. Cars, oh yes, those ones, they know when to break down. Your car tire gets flat, you realize it was destroyed, punctured, torn, not that it's flat and you need to pump. You need to replace, buy a new one. How do you cope? And then, of course, power surges. These are things that happen to us all the time. There's a power surge. In that power surge, the TV blows, the freezer blows, the AC is gone, and you're stuck with having to replace an appliance that you did not budget for. If you have not watched the episode on budgeting, you might need to go back there to check what we talked about in preparing for life with your budget. So when the worst that could happen happens, when the things you were not preparing for, when it happens to you, how do you cope? How you cope is by making sure that every time you earn, you set aside some money as emergency funds to help you tide over that difficult time, that unplanned incident when it does happen. Of course, I'm not doing this alone. My sisters will go ahead to tell you so much more about emergency funds. Tammy.
So why should you have an emergency fund? I still want to talk about Vex money. I remember a friend of mine, we were working in the bank together at that time, and he was having constant headache for months, and he needed his leave, and the manager did not approve the leave. So he just vexed and said he was going to resign. So the manager said, hold on. If you can wait and not touch your salary for 3 months, and then you can tender your resignation, and I will accept that. And the guy, guess what? For 3 months, his salary was coming into his salary account and he did not touch it. It means that he had an emergency fund. And when I asked, he told me he had been saving since he started working. So he had an emergency fund that built up to be a very large amount, such that for 3 months, this guy did not touch his salary. Now, emergency fund is what you set aside in case of emergency. And at the same time, if you don't have an emergency, you still have the fund to fall back to if you have anything to do, like a project. Emergency fund will help you achieve your goals, because if you don't have an emergency, you can invest such fund in a higher yield interest rate investment, and then you can fall back to it to achieve your other goals. If you have an emergency fund, you have peace of mind. There's this peace of mind that comes with emergency fund. You know that no matter what comes your way, there's always money. Honestly, you work with your head up high. If you have an emergency fund and someone is sick, and maybe your family, or you have an health emergency, you quickly go back to it. Peradventure, you even lose your job. If you lose your job, an emergency fund will help you. I always say that you should save up 6 months or 3 months living expenses as an emergency fund. I know my sister Funke has another, definition for that, and she's going to be talking about that in due time. But I always say that 6 months living expenses, if you save it as an emergency fund, it helps you if you lose your job or your business is not going the way you plan. You can actually fall back and still be able to meet up with your lifestyle. These are the things emergency funds will make you enjoy. So I women winning with money, what we do is we put you through on how to actually create an emergency fund and have a plan to follow it through. My sisters will be talking more about what you need to create an emergency fund and how to go about it.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. I'm going to be talking about how much should you save in your emergency fund. The truth of the matter is, emergencies will always come one way or the other. Rain falls, we don't always plan for it, but the person that has the umbrella will be able to, stay dry rather than getting wet and catching cold. So you will always have emergencies. How much? Well, the general rule of the thumb is that you should save 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. However, different people have different situations and different lifestyles and different circumstances. So what I would say is, when you're building your emergency funds, you need to consider so many things. Consider your type of job, your income, consider what you use monthly, your monthly expenses. Also consider things like, if you have debts that you are repaying, it should be part of the things that you should consider in your emergency fund. Also, school fees, whatever, there's sometimes you just leave a little cushion in that emergency fund. The truth of the matter is, it does happen. Something happened even to me like a week ago. I was coming from Lagos and then my car shut down, as in it shut down. It had given a warning, but I felt, oh, this just I would take it to, and it just shut down, and we couldn't move. There and then I had to, what do I do? Get someone. At least I got to Ibadan. The next thing was, okay, get this car to where it will be fixed, and they brought a very big bill. At first I was like, ooh, but you see, that's like Temi said, it helps you to raise your head high. The fact that, oh, I have something, no matter how little, that I can fall back to, and you see, just like cars will break down at any time, like Jekak said, other things could happen. So you need to have 3 to 6 months, but consider your own monthly expenses, because it will differ from individuals, families. So consider that. Consider your job, the type of job you are and the type of income that you have been earning. Because, someone that has been earning 1 million compared to someone that is earning 2 million, your expenses would also differ. So you need to look into that, because you need to create that pause that will help you to live comfortably. It could even be as a change of job. You are looking for another job, you just want to pivot, and 2 3 months you're not doing anything. You should be able to live comfortably. So look at all you spend within a month, and then look at your job, look at other things, maybe like medicals, you need to go for a checkup. These little things, plug it in and then use it to calculate how much you need to put in your own emergency fund. Remember when COVID came, everybody was told to, there was lockdown. People were still able to survive. Some could not. Some could. Some were able to manage because of that emergency fund. So look at your own scenario, look at your family, and try as much as possible to do a minimum of 3 to 6 months, considering these factors that I've mentioned. And I know that Funke is going to tell us more about how exactly to build it and also to maintain an emergency fund account.
Thank you there. So I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have funds in your emergency fund account? If the answer to that question is no, you are broke. Very broke. Yes. You'll be telling me, yeah, but I have these, I earn this. You are broke. Because the truth is, when you don't have money for emergency and they come, that income that you think you have may not be enough. So number one thing is, go today and decide, how much am I saving? What is my living expenses? Are you trying to do 3 months? Are you trying to do 6 months? I keep saying that no matter how long you want to make it, one thing is important: the security of your principal. So determine how much you want to save. Now look at where do you want to keep it. And never keep one single emergency fund. There are 3 ways you should keep your emergency funds. My sister was talking about vex money. That's another level of emergency. That's the kekere step of this. Because there are some emergencies that the thing pass vex money. So apart from your vex money that you keep in your house for emergencies that are small emergencies, you should have that you keep in the bank that is easily accessible. Not a fixed deposit that they will tell you come back in 2 weeks. Savings account that you will walk in or use your card and you will withdraw. And the third of the level is the investment type of emergency account. Because sometimes some emergencies can wait, but because it involves a lot of money. So you have to determine how much do I want to save. Okay, I want to save 6 months. A month can be in the house, 2 months can be in your savings account, 3 months can be in your investment account, so that it will be yielding interest. And like I keep saying, money like this, you don't keep them in accounts where they will be debited, where there will be so much charges. Look for high yield savings accounts and keep your money there. If you don't save, you are not safe. And I tell people there are two types of emergencies account. As a personal person, we have that gratitude account. I like to call it gratitude account because for even you are alive, and she said she had issue with a car. It's because she's alive. It's because she has a car. If she doesn't have a car, there's no how she will be saying that she had a problem with her car. So that's a reason to be grateful. So personally, you should have an emergency fund. Now for your business, and that is what we call sinking fund. Or let me say part of it. Because issues do happen. When COVID came, we like to give that example because COVID changed everything.
Yeah.
Everything. When COVID came, a lot of businesses closed down. I traveled around that time and I noticed that a lot of shops didn't open after COVID. As in they shut down. Why? Because they couldn't sustain the business. So that your business will not go into extinction, you need to save ahead. I have a client long time ago. She came and she wanted a loan, and I was like, "Is this not the woman that I used to see that sells blah blah blah?" And she said yes. So I said, "Okay, why do you need a loan to start your business again?" She said she was sick, she had a surgery, and she couldn't pay. She didn't have money, so she had to sell the things in her shop. She had to sell them cheaply to raise funds to pay her hospital bill. Now she sold everything in her shop and she had nothing left. Now she needs a loan. I told her it's a long time ago, maybe about 8, 9 years, and I asked her how much was the bill. I think 36,000. And I did a calculation for her. I said, "How much do you earn your net profit on a daily basis?" I think about 1,002. So I told her if you have been keeping 200 naira aside every month, every day rather, you would have had like 72,000 naira in a year. That means you would have been able to pay for your hospital bill, come back to your business, and still even have money. So, what am I talking about? You need to set up your emergency fund account today, where in a reliable bank, parts in your bank, parts in your house, because there are some emergencies that will not even wait for you to go to the bank, and some as a little kind of flexible investment. Please, not like buying a land. That is not emergency funds. It could be an investment you want to now liquidate later for any other purpose, but not like buying a land. There are a lot of investment opportunities. You can talk to us, we tell you a lot of investment opportunities that you have easy access to your funds. So it's very important that you make your emergency fund very liquid. And the last thing I will say about emergency fund is don't dip your hand into your emergency fund for things that are not emergency. In fact, I always tell myself that repair of car, if not like it's a big one, is not an emergency because it is wear and tear of the car. You should prepare for it. If it's a major repair, yes. But if it's not a major repair, you should prepare ahead of it. So don't dip your hand into your emergency fund for stuffs that are not emergency because by the time you pick 1,000, 2,000, 100,000 out of it, oh, I'm going to replace it. Next week, you are going to do the same again. So you need a lot of discipline. And we'll be willing to hold your hand to teach you how to set up an emergency fund, the places you can keep your money, how to make sure that when you save it, it stays safe. If you reach out to us, yes, please, before I forget, I want to say another thing. They usually say that I lower Baba Ijaya. The way we are wired, when you don't have money, you are scared. And when you are scared, you attract things that will make you more scared. So if you truly want to live a happy life, if you really want to win with your finances, the basis of everything is having an emergency fund. Even if you are paying back a loan, make sure as you are paying back a loan, you are gradually setting up your emergency fund. And don't make the mistake of thinking that, oh, my emergency fund, I need to set it up in just 2 months, 3 months. No, it may even take you years. But make sure you are gradually building it. And you find out that as you are building it, you are smiling, you are happy, the possibility of emergency coming reduces. So I wish you a great day. Check out our Instagram page, our social media pages, follow us, talk to us, and let's help you to win with money. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.